I planned my sister's graduation party, but my parents turned it into their BBQ. So I packed the decor, left a note, and walked out. Their angry texts were hilarious. Look, I never thought I'd be the type to just bounce from a family party, but here we are. So there I was, 30 years old and still playing the role of family event coordinator, which honestly should have been my first red flag. But when it comes to my little sister Kayla, I'd move mountains if she asked me to. Kayla was graduating high school. Not just graduating, but graduating with honors and a full scholarship to state. Girl worked her tail off for 4 years while our parents were busy doing their own thing, if you catch my drift. So naturally, when graduation rolled around, I wanted to throw her the kind of party she deserved. Something special, you know? Not just pizza and soda in our backyard. I went. All out, no cap. Rented one of those fancy white party tents from the event place downtown, the kind you see at weddings. Cost me $300 just for the weekend, but whatever. Ordered a custom graduation cake from that bougie bakery on 5th Street. Chocolate and vanilla layers with her school colors and everything. Even got those fancy gold number balloons spelling out 2025 and coordinated all the decorations to match her school theme. The guest list was carefully curated too. I made sure to invite all of Kayla's close friends from school, her track teammates, and a few teachers who really made a difference for her. You know, the people who actually cared about her achievement. I spent weeks planning this thing, coordinating with everyone, making sure the timing worked with everyone's schedules. But here's where things get interesting. The morning of the party, I'm setting everything up in our backyard at like 9 a.m., right? The tent guys had come early to get everything situated, and I'm out there arranging tables and hanging up streamers when my mom comes outside with her. Coffee? Oh, honey, this looks amazing, she says. But then she gets that look. You know the look. The one that means she's about to drop some news that's gonna mess up your whole day. By the way, your dad and I invited a few of our friends. Nothing major, just the Johnsons and the Millers and maybe the crew from his work. I stopped what I was doing. Mom, this is Kayla's party, for her graduation. I know, sweetheart, but we figured since you went to all this trouble, why not make it a real celebration? Besides, these people have known Kayla since she was little. That should have been my cue to shut it down right there, but I figured, okay, maybe a few extra adults won't hurt. Boy, was I wrong. Update. So the party starts at 2, and by 2:30, things have gone completely sideways. Should I have seen this coming? What would you have done in my position? Fast forward to party time, and I'm watching this whole thing unfold like a slow-motion car crash. Kayla's friends show up right on time, all dressed nice and excited. The cake looks perfect, the decorations are Instagram-worthy, and for about 20 minutes, everything's going according to plan. Then the avalanche starts. First, it's just the Johnsons and the Millers, like Mom said. But then my dad's entire work crew rolls up. We're talking like 8 dudes in their Carhartt shirts and work boots, cracking open Bud Lights like they're at a construction site. Then Mom's book club ladies arrive with a cooler full of wine, coolers, and suddenly they're setting up their own little corner. But the real kicker? My dad decides this is the perfect time to fire up his new big green egg smoker that he'd been dying to show off. So now we've got smoke billowing everywhere, and he's holding court with his buddies, talking about BTUs and wood chips while Kayla's trying to take pictures with her friends. The music situation was the final straw. I'd made this perfect playlist of songs that Kayla and her friends actually listen to. You know, current stuff that gets them hyped. But Dad's buddy Mike decides he's the unofficial DJ now and switches it to classic rock. We're talking Led Zeppelin and AC/DC at full volume while these poor kids are trying to have a conversation. I watched Kayla's face just fall. Her friends are trying to be polite, but they're clearly uncomfortable with all these random adults taking over their space. The adults aren't even acknowledging that this is supposed to be about her. They're too busy comparing their new trucks and complaining about their property taxes. That's when it hit me like a freight train. This wasn't the first time this had happened. See, I'd been the family organizer for years without really thinking about it. Christmas dinner? I coordinated everything. Mom's birthday? I planned it. Family barbecues? Yours truly handled the details. And somehow, every single time, my parents would find a way to make it about them and their social circle. Started thinking about all the times I'd stepped up financially too. When Kayla needed new cleats for track, I bought them because Mom and Dad had just dropped $2,000 on a new fishing boat. When she needed a laptop for school, same story. They'd just renovated their master bathroom. I'd been subsidizing Kayla's needs while they focused on their wants, and I'd been doing it so long that it felt normal. Standing there watching my dad show off his smoker skills to his work buddies while Kayla sat at a corner table looking miserable, something just snapped. These people had turned my sister's graduation party into their own personal social hour, and I was done enabling it. Update. I'm about to make a decision that's going to change everything between me and my family. Have you ever reached that breaking point where you just can't take it anymore? Because I think I'm there. I didn't make a scene or anything dramatic. Instead, I just quietly started moving. First, I walked over to Kayla and whispered that we needed to talk privately. She followed me inside, and I could see the disappointment written all over her face. "I'm so sorry," she said before I could even speak. "I know you worked really hard on this. Don't you dare apologize," I told her. "This isn't your fault, but I'm not letting them ruin your day." Here's what I did next. And I'm still kind of shocked at my own boldness. I went back outside and started dismantling everything. Not aggressively or anything, just calmly and methodically taking down my decorations, packing up the centerpieces, and loading everything into my Honda Pilot. The adults were so caught up in their own conversations that most of them didn't even notice at first. But when I walked over to the cake table and started carefully boxing up that beautiful custom cake, a few heads turned. What are you doing? Mom asked, finally looking up from her wine cooler conversation. I'm taking my party, I said, keeping my voice level. You wanted to have your own thing, so have your own thing. Don't be ridiculous. You can't just take the cake. Watch me. And I did. I packed up that cake, rolled up those gold balloons, and loaded every single decoration I'd bought into my car. The tent was rented in my name, so I called the company and told them they could pick it up early if they wanted. Before I left, I wrote a quick note and left it on the kitchen counter. If Kayla's graduation isn't worth celebrating properly, then my party isn't worth having here. We'll be at Romano's if she means anything to you. Then I grabbed Kayla and we bounced. Romano's is this little Italian place downtown that Kayla loves. They've got this cozy back room that they sometimes use for small parties. And when I explained this situation to Maria, the owner, she totally hooked us up. We set up the cake on one of their tables, and I called Kayla's friends to let them know about the venue change. Every single one of her friends showed up. Not only that, but a couple of her teachers came too. We had this intimate little celebration where Kayla was actually the center of attention, where people were asking her about her plans for college and telling her how proud they were of her accomplishments. Watching her face light up as her track coach presented her with a signed team photo and her English teacher shared a story about her favorite essay Kayla had written, that's when I knew I'd made the right call. My phone was blowing up the entire time, but I'd turned it on silent. I wasn't about to let their drama interrupt Kayla's moment. Update. The aftermath was intense. My parents did not handle this well, and their reaction honestly just proved my point. But Kayla's response, that made everything worth it. When I finally checked my phone later that night, I had 17 missed calls and about 30 text messages. The messages were a real journey, let me tell you. It started with confusion. Where did you go? The cake is gone. Then escalated to anger. You embarrassed us in front of our friends. This is incredibly selfish behavior. Then came the guilt trips. We raised you better than this. Your sister is upset and it's your fault. But here's the thing. Kayla wasn't upset. She was grateful. She thanked me about 10 times that night for making her feel special on her day. She told me it was the best graduation party she could have asked for, and that seeing her friends and teachers show up just for her meant everything. The guilt trip texts kept coming for days. My dad tried the disappointed parent angle. I can't believe you'd abandon family like that. We taught you better. My mom went for emotional manipulation. You hurt our feelings and embarrassed us. All we wanted was to celebrate with you. But I wasn't buying it anymore. I'd spent years being their unpaid event coordinator and financial backup plan, and for what? So they could hijack every celebration and make it about themselves? I sent one response to their group chat. I'm done organizing family events. If you want to celebrate Kayla or anyone else, you're welcome to plan and pay for it yourselves. I'll be focusing my time and money on people who actually appreciate the effort. The silence after that message was deafening. Over the next few weeks, things got interesting. Mom called crying, saying I was tearing the family apart. Dad tried the tough love approach, telling me I needed to grow up and stop being so dramatic. But Kayla, she had my back completely. She started declining their invitations to family dinners and events, choosing instead to hang out with me. We'd go shopping, catch movies, or just grab dinner and talk about her college plans. For the first time in years, I felt like I had a real relationship with my sister instead of just being her financial safety net. My friends were incredibly supportive too. When I told them what happened, they were like, finally, we've been waiting for you to stand up to them for years. Apparently, it was obvious to everyone except me that my parents had been taking advantage of my generosity. The real test came a month later when Dad's birthday rolled around. Normally, I would have handled everything, restaurant reservations, coordinating everyone's schedules, probably picking up the tab for half the table. But this time, radio silence from me. 3 days before his birthday, Mom called in a panic. We need help organizing dinner for your father. Sounds like you should probably handle that yourselves, I said. But you always do this stuff. Exactly. They ended up having a sad little dinner at Applebee's with just the two of them, because they'd never actually learned how to coordinate anything without me doing the heavy lifting. Meanwhile, I took Kayla out for a nice dinner at that steakhouse. She'd been wanting to try, and we had an amazing time. The shift in family dynamics was dramatic. Without me as their go-to organizer and financial backup, my parents had to actually step up and handle their own social lives. Turns out they weren't very good at it. Kayla started seeing them differently too. When they'd ask her why she wasn't coming to family events, she'd tell them straight up, because you don't actually care about celebrating anyone but yourselves. For my part, I started investing all that time and energy I'd been wasting on thankless family drama into myself. I signed up for those cooking classes I'd been talking about for years, booked a solo trip to Nashville that I'd been putting off, started dating again because I finally had free weekends. The most liberating part was realizing I didn't miss the family obligations at all. I'd been so conditioned to believe that being the responsible one was noble or necessary, but really, I'd just been enabling their selfishness. About 6 months later, Kayla started her freshman year at State. I helped her move into her dorm, took her shopping for everything she needed, and made sure she had a solid emergency fund for unexpected expenses. My parents showed up for about an hour to drop off a cheap desk lamp and take some photos for Facebook. The difference was stark. I was there because I genuinely wanted to support Kayla's next chapter. They were there to check a box and maintain appearances. These days, my relationship with my parents is basically non-existent, and I'm completely fine with that. They occasionally send holiday cards or birthday texts, but the days of me organizing their social lives are over. They've had to learn how to plan their own parties, make their own restaurant reservations, and coordinate their own family gatherings. From what Kayla tells me, their events are pretty sad affairs now. Turns out, when you don't have someone else handling all the details and picking up the tab, your social calendar gets pretty thin. But Kayla and I are closer than ever. She comes to visit me regularly, and we've built this amazing relationship based on mutual respect rather than financial dependency. She's thriving in college, making great grades, and has a solid group of friends who actually value her for who she is. That graduation party showdown taught me something crucial. You teach people how to treat you. For years, I'd been teaching my parents that they could take advantage of my generosity without any consequences. The moment I stopped accepting that treatment, everything changed. Would I handle it differently if I could do it over? Honestly, no. Maybe I would have set boundaries earlier, but that dramatic exit was exactly what the situation called for. Sometimes you have to make a big statement to get people's attention. The funniest part is that my parents still think they were the victims in this whole situation. They'll tell anyone who'll listen about how their ungrateful daughter ruined a family party and abandoned them. But anyone who knows the real story can see right through that narrative. These days, when people ask me about family drama, I tell them the same thing. Your time and energy are precious resources, and you should invest them in people who actually appreciate what you bring to the table. Life's too short to spend it being someone's unpaid assistant while they take credit for your work. Kayla's doing amazing in college, I'm living my best life, and my parents are finally learning what it's like to be responsible for their own social lives. Honestly, everyone ended up exactly where they belong.